Great. Thanks for coming out. Recapping the Florida game, start with our players of the week. Scout Team Defensive Player of the Week was Tommy Colligan. Scout Team Offensive Player of the Week was offensive lineman Nelson McGuire. And really kind of a shout out to our entire offensive line scout group. Those kids are doing a phenomenal job with our weekly practices. They've had a really, really strong 3 weeks. And then Aiden Herrera was our special teams player of the week. Lineman of the week. Offensively, we gave it to the entire offensive line. I thought that was probably the most complete offensive line performance that we've had since I've been here, and so it was hard to single out one guy. We played penalty-free, we played sack-free, we played TFL-free, we ran the ball for over 180 yards, and so we just kind of gave it to the whole group. Defensive lineman of the week and also the SEC co-defensive lineman of the week was Dayon Hayes. And then in terms of players of the week, on offense, we went with Nate Borkacher. Obviously had a couple big catches, and those were key, but some of the things that he did late in the game, in the run game, in terms of setting edges and establishing some push at the line of scrimmage, really helped solve that game away. Defensively, we went with Albert Regis, who just continues to be an unheralded force in the middle, extremely difficult to block in the run game, got involved with a sack and a caused fumble as well. And then special teams player of the week was Tyler White. I thought he hit some critical punts, and I thought the one he hit at the end of the half when we were pinned back and they had a chance to get points on the board going into halftime, he hit a 51-yarder that they had to fair catch. I thought that was a really big moment in the game and a really big punt. And so, it's not a whole lot different than we talked about after the game. I thought we played a complete balanced game. I thought we was the first time where we went from good to bad to good, and those things are good signs. When things are good and you stay good, that obviously happens. But when you can, have some adversity on defense and then straighten it out and finish the right way, when you can start well on offense, have some adversity, and then find a way to put the game away. And I think those things are all good signs of growth and kind of where we're headed. And then just the thing that I'm probably most proud of, just that you put numbers on this, is the way we finished the game. We outscored them 10-0 in the fourth quarter. I thought we were the stronger team down the stretch, and they go for it on a 4th and 6. We stop them. We run 20 of the next 21 plays and eat up almost 11 minutes of clock and give them the ball back down 17 with less than a minute 20 left in the game. And if you can play football like that, you're going to win a lot of games. And so now it's on to Arkansas, which will be a real tremendous challenge for us. Offensively, they've been playing elite football. They're averaging over 500 yards a game. They're averaging just under 40 points a game. They have the second fewest punts in the conference. They score a lot. Obviously, Coach Petrino has done a phenomenal job calling offenses for a really long time. Now as the interim head coach returning to Fayetteville, you can imagine probably the emotion that will be into that game for him and for that team. And so we will get their best. Defensively, they made a change in coordinator going into the game last week. Really thought they tried to streamline what they were doing, put their kids in a position where they could be confident in what they were doing and play fast, and would anticipate that will continue to get better and better each week, that they get more comfortable with what they're doing. And so we're going to have our hands full. Fayetteville is going to be a really challenging place to play. Anytime you go on the road in this conference, it's a big challenge. And so this is going to be a huge challenge for our program to go on and get the next one. And so we'll look forward to a great week of prep and a great opportunity to go out next week and continue this thing moving in the right direction. So from there, we'll open it up to questions.
Coach to the right, third row, David.
Mike, I know it was a big emphasis in the offseason to finish. And if you can elaborate a little bit more on the team's ability to finish fourth quarters defensively and offensively, it seems like you're at your best, controlling the tempo, controlling the game in the fourth.
Yeah, I think that's, obviously I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Tommy Moffitt and his staff. I think you've got to give a lot of credit to our kids in terms of how hard they worked in the offseason. And then some of it just becomes, and we talked about, like, what comes from winning these games in the fourth quarter, what comes from finding a way to win the game against Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. I think you get a confidence about how you play. And so there's been times in the past where I've been here where, and even last year quite a few times, where it felt real nervy in the fourth quarter, and kids weren't certain of what was going to happen. Right now, that feel is not there. and we've got to work hard to make sure it stays that way. But like when we get into the fourth quarter, there's a confidence. You can kind of see it on the sideline when we switch from the third to the fourth quarter. There's an energy about it that our guys know that they're going to go into that quarter and be strong and play well. And those are all critical factors to being a winning program. Now, again, like we talk all the time like this, that's rented. And you got to pay rent on it every week to give yourself a chance to go do it again. But certainly for the last few games, that has showed itself to be really good.
Well stated the right, Carter.
Hey, Mike, sorry. When you saw the schedule layout initially with heavy home games, first half of the season, heavy road games, second half, what was your kind of takeaway? And do you have a preference on whether you like it that way or if you like it more staggered where it's kind of off and on?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's at the end of the day, like no matter how the schedule shapes out, it's ultimately comes down to how you perform that's going to shape it, right? Had we not handled business on the road in these early games, then the schedule would look extremely daunting and there'd be a lot of question marks around where we are. Because we handled the schedule the right way early, there's uncertainty about how we're going to do on the road. You flip it, and who knows, it's probably the same conversation. And so at the end of the day, people talk a lot about schedules and schedule difficulty, and you really don't know, and you just have to let it play out. And I've said this too, there's a lot of conversation about where certain teams in this conference are relative to each other. It's so early to have any idea on any of that. And so you just got to let teams play. You got to get a much bigger sample size. You got to get many more data points to figure out where this whole thing is going to fill out. And so to me, you don't really think like that. You just think, okay, we've got this game and we got to get ready for it. And, the one thing that they at least did was put the bye week in, so it's not 3 straight road games. That probably would have been a little bit on the challenging side, or the distance of road games isn't quite as far as it could be. It's not like we're going out east twice in a row. So to that point, I think probably looked at some of the logistical parts of it and didn't feel like it was that bad.
And with Le'Veon Moss, just when do you expect him to be back, and any update on his status?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have started with that. So Lev's going to be out probably for a significant period of time. It's an unrelated injury to anything that he's been dealing with, has nothing to do with last year, has nothing to do with what he'd been dealing with earlier this year. It's an isolated injury that happened on that tackle. It's an ankle, not a knee, which is a really positive sign. He's going to have to go get it looked at, and we'll kind of figure out where it's at. It certainly will not end his season, but it's going to be a significant amount of time.
Coach to the left, fourth row, Rob.
Coach, can you talk about the importance of the depth at the running back position, and how at the end you're just wearing teams down and being able to put a fresh back in there and they're all producing?
Yeah, and it's we have a lot of really talented players. It's why we talk a lot about like just being ready. Like, again, we always talk to the offense. Our guys will tell you I'm fairly blunt and honest when we have these conversations. Like, everybody wants the football, and so we go into last week with 5 tailbacks who all want the ball 25 times and all are probably capable of carrying it 25 times. But we can't do that, right? And so everybody just has to stay ready. And so, all of a sudden Lev goes down, and now Ruben's got to be the primary ball carrier, and then that opens up some carries for Amari and for Jamarian to get in there, and they give us some good runs. Amari converts a 3rd and short, Jamarian converts a 3rd and short, and then he gets into 4-minute offense at the end of the game, and now we're able to put in a fresh E.J. Smith out there, and we really trust his ball security, and he rips off some really good runs, and he's fresh and ready to go and ready to do his job the way he needs to. And so I think it's a credit to what Trooper Taylor does with that group, and I think it's just a credit to those kids that they just work and they're ready to go when their numbers are called.
Coach front right, Travis.
Hey, Mike, I know it's a small sample size, but how is maybe this Arkansas program different with Bobby kind of leading things, and what's the hallmarks of some of his offenses?
That it's probably hard to say from a program standpoint. I think the hallmarks of his offenses are they're really good. I mean, you guys were here, you witnessed it firsthand. I think they do a really good job of stressing you. They identify weaknesses in your defense. I think they're very multiple in how they can attack you. They've got a talented quarterback who can run and throw the football, and so they present the challenges of a running quarterback and the challenges of a West Coast passing attack, and that's always difficult to go against. They're different. They use different personnel groups. They try to match up personnel to put themselves in advantageous positions. And I think this will be the 5th time now that I've gone against him. And he's certainly one of the best play callers in the country.
Is there a greater level maybe of comfort that knowing if Le'Veon's going to be out, that the offensive line did just come off what you said was maybe one of their better performances?
No, I think, listen, and I said this after the game, I love Le'Veon. I wish Le'Veon was healthy. We're going to miss him. He's been a warrior for this program. He's given us everything he had to get ready for this season. I hope this goes as fast and as smooth as it can. But injuries are a part of SEC football. And if we're going to allow injuries to impact or derail things, we can't do that. And so it's just next man up mentality, and that's not to dismiss what it's going to mean to lose him, because he's going to be a huge loss, but it has to be a next man up mentality in order for us to play in this conference. You can't do it any other way.
Coach, all the way in the back, Donna.
Coach, talking about finishing, a few of your players have just mentioned how difficult practice has been throughout the whole year, and that's really what prepares them to outlast other teams, especially late in the game. Have you seen just an elevated level of energy and practice habits this year?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think I think we're starting to learn what it means to put in the work on Tuesday and Wednesday to give yourself a chance to have success on Saturday. I don't know that. And I'll share this with them too. At times, I don't know if it's difficult as they make it out to be, but you want it to be challenging. You want them to continue to stay fresh. We do good on good work Tuesday, Wednesday. We do situational work Tuesday, Wednesday. We're trying to put them in positions. Like we talk about this all the time. It's one thing to know the game. It's another thing to play it. And so part of what you have to do during the weekly practice prep is learn how to take angles, learn how to press the football, learn how to throw with rhythm and timing on offense. Like, it's not just learning what to do. It's trying to figure out how to execute that at a high level. And I think when your practice habits get better, that stuff shows up to be better in the game. And so I think the kids are starting to see that. You show them what it looks like on a Tuesday practice. You show them then what it looks like in a game on Saturday, and it kind of creates that effect that you're looking for of continuing to do it that way.
Coach to the left, second row, Alex.
With y'all about to embark on this really long road trip, I'm just curious what you thought maybe the biggest lessons y'all learned from the Notre Dame experience and coming out on top can maybe help in this, or even drawing back at times from last year in some of those games.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard. I think that's what, that was my takeaway from all of it. I think anytime you go on the road in this conference, you've got challenges. That's the nature of being on the road. There's no easy environments. There's no easy teams. There's no good opportunities. And so, anytime you have to go play games on the road, you're going to be dealt with a lot of challenges and a lot of adversity, and you better be ready to overcome them.
We'll stay to the left, third row, Matthew.
Coach, what can you say about this program's ability to take in players and develop them into game-winning players?
That so far we've done a pretty good job. I think, I said this, and it's always funny how this plays out, and this is no slight at Carter's operation over there, but we have our own internal grading scale and grading system. We get very excited with some of the players that we add, regardless of what popular opinion may be. We go through it. I don't mean that the wrong way, please. I'm just joking. But they go out here. Here goes the Twitter feeds, right? Like, oh my God, Elko's taking a shot at 247. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm just joking with Carter. But we spent a lot of time evaluating. And we're not perfect like anybody. We're not perfect like the NFL's not perfect. But we feel like we have a really strong internal system of how we go about it. And so over the course of time, there's been guys that we've been really excited when we've added them that maybe for whatever reason the perception wasn't as high. I think that's proven to be accurate. Tyler Onyedem was an enormous get for us. Cassius Howell, we felt like, was a really big get for us. When we added Jamarian Morrow late in the recruiting cycle, we felt like that was a really big get for us. Those things I think maybe are some prime examples.
We'll continue to stay on the left, second row. Aaron.
Hey, Coach. Last year was the last year that the A&M Arkansas game was played at AT&T Stadium for the time being. Just what do you think is, from a coach's perspective, is the difference between playing in a neutral site like that and the game being moved back to the campuses, especially in the SEC?
Well, this year I wish it was in AT&T and Stadium. Next year I'll probably be glad it's in Kyle Field. If I'm not even sure if it's on the schedule next year. I haven't looked at it, but obviously every other year it's good and bad. Obviously it's good for the campuses. It's good to have this game here at Kyle Field when it happens. I'm sure it's great for them to have the game in Fayetteville when it happens. The thing from a coaching perspective is when you have to go on the road, you'd way rather go play at a neutral site. When you have an opportunity to play at home, you'd rather play at home. And so, again, it just kind of is what it is, and you just got to deal with it.
Front row to the left. Tony.
Coach, obviously, Le'Veon Moss being injured is something you guys dealt with last year. The difference is now you have a healthy Ruben Owens. Can you just talk about, obviously this group is talented, but what does Ruben Owens bring to this group, specifically his running style, and how does it differ from Moss and his style?
I don't know if it's a ton different. Ruben's a lot bigger than people give him credit for. He's a lot thicker than people give him credit for. I think, Ruben's starting to hit his stride, which has been really good. I think, it took him a while to get back from his injury. He hasn't had a ton of reps in this offense because of the injury, and so he really didn't get healthy until the middle of fall camp, where he was really starting to run and cut the way he wanted to, and so. I think it's good for him to now he's kind of hitting his groove, and now it's going to be really big for him to go out there and shoulder the load.
Coach left, fourth row. Aiden.
So nearly every press conference you've spoken about the humility that the Aggies have developed over the recent years. Every time we see your players talk, they're not boastful or proud. They're just happy to be and proud of the team that they're on right now. Was there a point in your coaching career where you realize that this mentality works? This mentality wins games, builds championship teams?
I got a couple stories on that one. I'm chuckling internally a little bit. I tell this one in recruiting a lot. Probably the first time humility hit me is my first year at Stony Brook, when I had a desk next to the bathroom in a trailer, and I spent the whole day listening to it flush. And so that was a good starting point for my humility in my coaching career. But no, I think, and I've said this a lot, there's humility and there's confidence. And those are two things that can coexist. We are extremely confident in the program we're building. We're extremely confident in the team that we are. We're extremely confident in how we coach, how we recruit, how we develop. We believe we do it as well as anybody in the country. But I don't think that's necessary to go out and pound your chest about. And so we want to be the group that just kind of goes to work, does our thing, produces. That I think is always something that pays dividends. And so I don't know that it's necessarily anything more than maybe just a reflection of leadership and kind of how we go about our day-to-day conversations and our day-to-day process. But we'll be very humble and very confident. That's the program we would like to be.
Front row left. Robert.
Mike, your depth at running back is well documented, but it would seem like your depth overall this year is much better than it was last year. Some of those guys you mentioned. Is this about where you want the program to be yearly, where your depth is right now?
Yeah, I think from a depth standpoint, I think you want to have quality players at every position. I think that the more we recruit, will create some balance on the roster too. And what I mean by that is like, it's always nice to have talented freshmen as the fill-in pieces. I think when we got here, it was well documented. The roster was very much in flux with the coaching change and what happens through the coaching changes, and just kind of where some of the roster inefficiencies were. As you start to situate it and you start to stack recruiting classes, and that becomes a piece of it, and then you're adding portal pieces, you can kind of complete the roster a little bit better. It's hard. Like defensive tackle is a perfect example, right? I don't know that we have the proper number of upperclassmen that you would like, but it's hard to convince kids when you have Al and you have DJ Hicks and you land Tyler Onyedem. It's hard to convince the next SEC capable defensive lineman to come join that group. And so when you could supplement that with 2 classes of freshmen, 3 classes, like in that development, that's where, you can get it where you want to be. And so Dalen Evans' role becomes critical. DJ Sanders and Landon Rink, their roles become critical. The more it's able to go like that, the more the depth will probably be right, and we're probably a year away from getting it exactly how we would like it to be in that regard.
Back over to the right, Carter.
Okay, I'm going to ask about a guy we definitely rated too low. So apologies in advance, but
No, I don't need apologies. I'm good. You guys got a job to do. I respect your job. I like a lot of people that put your company together.
hopefully me too.
Yeah, I do. I like you too.
So Damian Sanford, wanted to ask you about him because I'm curious, just is he playing his way to potentially taking that job and run with it? And how do you balance him and another guy that's done pretty well here at Scooby Williams?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. You would way rather have 2 kids playing at a really high level and try to figure out how to manage it than be trying to figure out who can play at a really high level. It's such a testament or a credit to Damian and how he has handled these last 3.5 weeks, because he went out again and made a bunch of impact football plays again. He has earned the right to stay on the field. Scooby Williams has earned the right to play, given his track record here and the things that he's done. And so it becomes our job to try to figure out creative ways to make that happen. And I think you even saw, a handful of snaps on Saturday where all 3 of them were on the field together. And that's the flexibility that we as coaches have to create to make sure that we're able to get enough snaps for the players who warrant getting on the field. And you can't always get it right, offensive scheme, that all plays a role in it, but it just creates flexible pieces for you as a defensive coach to kind of get guys out there in places where they can be successful.
We'll stay to the right, third row.
Coach, what does a stout run defense do for a team with championship aspirations, and is it possible to compete for titles without being strong in that area?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure if we weren't strong in that area, we would have to find a way to compete, because that's what we're here for. I think what it does is it puts people in off yardage situations. I think if you look at the third and off yardage situations that we've been able to put people in, a lot of that is a testament to the run defense and the ability to just keep people off schedule. If people can run the ball for 5-6 yards and stay in that 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 world, I'm sure we're not talking about the success that we're having on third down defense. Part of the success, a large part of the success, is the distance. The distance plays a huge role, and I think a large part of that is tied into your run defense.
Travis, up front.
Yeah, Coach, I think for this, since one of the last times we talked to you, the one-time transfer window has passed. I believe you said you're in favor of that. How have y'all started to maybe adjust to that, or your general thoughts on since it's passed?
I don't know that there's an adjustment to it, because there was always going to be that window, and we were always going to have to get ready for that window. So I think preparations for that window have been long underway. I think the benefit of it and why I'm so in favor of it is we know when that window's over, our roster is going to be set, and there's not another window coming. And I just think in this world of revenue share, which is really, it's code word for salary cap, like there's a salary cap now, it would be extremely difficult to manage a salary cap through 2 free agency windows, to try to predict how that would all go out and how to manage money through 2 windows, I think would be extremely difficult, if not impossible. And so I think that is the benefit of it. And for that reason, just knowing that the roster is going to be set when it's set, I think is why I'm in favor of it.
And what was the feeling to be able to get Bryce Anderson back on the field, and kind of how do you manage his continued scaling up to that?
Yeah, it was, given where he was 3 weeks ago laying on that field at Notre Dame, given the relationship that I've had with him all the way back to recruiting, his family all the way back to recruiting, it just was great to see him back healthy, injury-free. That was a really scary moment, and to see him back playing the game that he loves, it's just a really cool thing.
All right, anything else for Coach?
Oh.
Robert?
How about Talon Green? How has his game improved from last year? You get to see enough film.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think he's got the ability to hurt you so many different ways. He's got a big arm. We saw that last year. He can make a lot of throws. He's got unbelievable escapability, and so he's hard to pressure because he can get out of pressure and really hurt you. And then he's got the ability to be a running quarterback, and they use him enough as a running quarterback to create problems and stress and dilemmas. And so I think he's a big piece of the reason why they're as successful as they are. He's certainly playing as well as anybody in the country right now.
We'll stay to the left, fourth row, Rob.
Coach, so when you're going on the road and you're facing a team that maybe is not having the best season, but you're the big rival, it kind of reminds me of the Auburn game a little bit last year. How do you prepare your team mentally to know that this is their Super Bowl? This makes their season. So how do you kind of prepare your team mentally to go in there and attack and not take it for granted?
Yeah, I think long before we even talk about anything that you just said, I just turn the film on and show them that they're averaging 40 points a game and 500 yards a game, and they shouldn't listen to any of the standard narratives that get created around records, because if you do that, you'll wind up in a really bad spot.
All right, anything else?
Thank you, guys.